I would like to discuss about uh, uh, governing dhammas of the world. Governing dhammas of the world. We know there are a lot of governments to govern the world. This is not about governments or politics or economics, which is more effective for the governing the world. In Pali, this governing Dhamma, governing teaching of the world, is called Loka Palaka Dhamma. They are called Loka Palaka Dhamma. Loka, we know world. Palaka, we know, Palaka means in Pali or Sanskrit, governing. Dhamma means teaching. So, teaching which governs the world, whether there are governments, politicians, economists or not, there are two Dhammas. Here Dhamma meaning is not just teachings of the Buddha. Dhamma means just teaching, good teaching. So, from the beginning to today and towards the end of the world also, we do not know when the world is going to end, but as long as world exists and human beings especially exist, devas exist, world is governed by two dhammas, two teachings, two principles. Here we can use the word principle also for these dhammas. Lokapalaka Dhamma. What are those two? Lajja, I use Pali terms first. Lajja and Hiri. Lajja and Hiri. Lajja means, if we take just the meaning of the word, shame. Sometimes can use the word shy also, but shame is the better translation. Lajja. Hiri means I'm sorry, I used the meaning wrongly. Lajja is here shame. Then Hiri. Hiri is fear. Fear to do evil. When we take them as dhammas, lajja means shame or moral shame. We can use the word moral shame, that is better. Moral shame, lajja. Then hiri means we can say moral fear. In other words, can say fear to do evil. First one is moral shame, that means fear to do, the shame to do evil. The other one, fear to do evil. Shame to do evil and fear to do evil. So, let us take them for a bit of details. Moral shame. Fear to, shame to do evil. Shame to do evil. when we do things, we have to think of the society. We have to think of the society. We have to think of ourselves. We have to think of what we have learned. We have to think of where we belong to. All these things. When we live in this world, generally today, people think they are free to do anything as they like. World should be free for all, free for everything. But even Buddhism does not agree with that idea. The Buddha is a person who helps people to achieve liberation from worldly suffering. The Buddha has given so much freedom to people to have their own beliefs. Means the Buddha never forced people to believe in anything. Buddha has given freedom of belief to people, freedom of talk. So Buddhism, therefore we call Buddhism is a religion of peace and freedom. Even that, in Buddhist teaching also, there is no freedom to do whatever we like. There is freedom. There is an enormous freedom for people based on teachings of the Buddha. But it doesn't mean man has freedom to do whatever he likes. We do not have that kind of freedom. Because if we take freedom in that way, we can do things which are very harmful, which are evil, which can create disharmony, which can create wars, fighting, many evil things. Then, if a man has the freedom to do whatever he likes, the world will be a hell. We don't have to talk about a hell another place. This very human world can be like worse than the hell which we have learned from books. So man can create the hell here. That is why two great Dhammas, which we call two world governing Dhammas, exist. Shame to do evil, that means moral shame, and fear of doing evil, moral shame and moral fear. So what is important is we have to see shame to moral shame to do evil. If we pay attention towards it based on teachings of the Buddha, moral shame. Moral shame means, when we talk about that, we know what are the morals. Moral means, for a Buddhist, 5 precepts and certain principles. Moral means principles. Principles are established to guide us to stay away from harmful actions. So we have to choose when we do actions, when we do things, what are the actions, what are the activities which are not harmful to others and harmful to ourselves. We cannot think, we cannot be one-sided also. There are some people, they think they don't do anything harmful to others, so they are good. But by not doing anything harmful to others does not mean one can call he or she really good person. In a way it is good. If we don't do anything harmful to others, that means anything can create others unhappy, if any of our actions give pain to other people, any kind of activities can create disharmony among people, we should avoid. That is a very good way of living. But it doesn't mean only being like that alone can make us really good. Some people pay more attention towards that side, but they don't pay attention towards themselves. They do evil towards themselves. They do harmful things to themselves. They do things which can create health problems to themselves. They don't bother about health. So if we ask, they can say, oh, you don't have to talk about that. I don't harm to anybody. I don't do any harmful things to others or society. But I do certain things for myself, whether it is harmful for myself or not, is up to me. So you can't say I am doing anything wrong. But harmful things to ourselves is also wrong, bad and evil. One of the well-known teachers I have read, he had written about practicing hunger in order to get attention. When we say hunger strike or practicing hunger, the most well-known people, I think you may know, you may remember, Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, I think at least almost all of you have heard. We consider him as the greatest leader of India in present time. But there were greater people in India before. The Buddha is from India. Buddha is the greatest son of India, but Indian people have forgotten the Buddha. That's why Buddhism disappeared in India. Then the Emperor Asoka, one of the greatest sons of India. Mahatma Gandhi cannot match with him, with them. But Mahatma Gandhi is one of the greatest leaders of modern time who lived in India. His main weapon was hunger strike. He was immensely popular. So during his time, India was under British Empire. Sometimes British people made very cruel decisions against the public of India. They did not give much freedom to people. they brought in a lot of mm, rules which could suppress people. So against that, and in order to get freedom to India, Mahatma Gandhi used a very serious weapon. British government, British army was equipped with lot of lethal weapons, lot of advanced weapons. So the society in India and Mahatma Gandhi could not match with them. They could not fight. So he knew it very well. But he used hunger strike as the weapon. Mahatma Gandhi, as I said earlier, was immensely popular. So when he went on a hunger strike, whole British Empire frightened. Even the king, sometimes queen of England frightened, because in India population is very big. They knew if anything happened to Mahatma Gandhi, or if Mahatma Gandhi died when he was in hunger strike, whole India, the people of whole India will go against British army. They won't be able to control India. Not 100,000, not 1 million, not 10 million, 100 over million people can protest, go against British rule. So the British rulers knew it. So when Mahatma Gandhi was in hunger strike, British rulers were frightened. As a result of that, many times they listened to demands of Mahatma Gandhi. Even the freedom, independence to India also came mainly because of Mahatma Gandhi's effort. And in that effort, the most powerful part was going on hunger strike. So he did it mainly for the freedom and as a political weapon. But I have read an article, somebody well-known writer also, he had written, one should not go for hunger strike for anything, under any circumstances. It doesn't mean I am agreeable with or I am against it, but it has a kind of meaning. What is hunger strike? Hunger strike also, in a way, a kind of violence. That is the argument of that person. Violence against oneself. Somebody can say, oh, I want something, I demand for something, and say, until I get it, I go for hunger strike. If I can't get, I will die. So hunger strike means avoid taking food, food and drinks. So it creates what you call pain and some destructive results to oneself. Therefore, hunger strike also violent. That's the argument of that writer. But Mahatma Gandhi had a kind of excuse. He did it for the sake of people. Therefore, it is extremely difficult to say Mahatma Gandhi had done a bad thing or wrong thing. But in Buddhist way, if we look at it, even in order to demand something if a person go for hunger strike, we cannot justify it as a perfect action, because as that writer also mentioned, hunger strike is violating a kind of principle. It is against, although people say hunger strike, Mahatma Gandhi did hunger strike, that is non-violence. Non-violence towards others, non-violence towards the government, but violence towards oneself. So Buddhism does not agree with any kind of violence towards others, so violence towards oneself. Here I can say about commit suicide also. Many people come and argue about this matter. Some people say nowadays commit suicide is quite widely spread in Japan, in Sri Lanka, in India, in Singapore, so sometimes we can hear. In many countries we can see this. Commit suicide is also, we can see here. Some say, what is wrong if somebody want to commit suicide? That person's life is belong to that person, not belong to anybody else. Therefore, he or she has the right to decide anything about the life. But it is which is very, very clear based on Buddhism, it is totally disagreeable. We cannot say that. We can say life is belong to ourselves. Nobody can argue against that. Life is belong to ourselves. But it is not the point. Although life is belong to ourselves, we cannot be violent towards ourselves. Commit suicide is violent towards oneself. It is a cruel act in a way. If you are not cruel to yourself, you cannot destroy your life. In order to commit suicide, if a person decides in order to commit suicide, that is a cruel act when we see it with some wisdom. So there is a thought of destruction and act of destruction. So that is cruelty. So violating a principle, doing a evil thing to oneself. Therefore, when we think of world governing natural Dhamma, Dhammas, fear, moral fear, fear of doing evil, commit suicide also come under that. If a person has the moral, follow the moral principle, means fear of doing evil, cannot think of committing suicide, even cannot think of going hunger strike, cannot be use hunger strike even for even as an political weapon to gain some demands, to achieve certain demands. So moral fear of doing evil is one of the principles govern the body. Buddha's teaching also agreeable with it. One cannot do anything harmful to oneself and others, thinking it is right or it is a good principle. It is not a good principle. So it is very clear when we live in a society, we have to stay away from all kind of harmful actions towards ourselves and others. So this world governing principle is for us to remember about that important principle. Then the moral shame, fear to do evil, first one. Now moral shame. It is also in a way similar to that. Moral shame means not only fear. One must have shame to do wrong things, shame to do evil. This is actually, with my understanding, this is a very important principle which we are not paying much attention. Shame to do evil, moral shame. Fear alone not enough. We must have shame also. Fear, sometimes we can follow first principle. That means to do evil things we can develop fear, especially in a country. There is a kind of law of the state. I think it is very obvious in Singapore. Some people say rules are very strict. So, even in any other countries, there are certain kind of rules. There are judges. There is a protector of rules like police. Then there is a judgment. Because of all these things, people have fear. Because of that fear, even if they want to do wrong things, they abstain. Try to abstain. Of course, it doesn't work all the time, but most of the time it works. That is why countries are free from, not totally, free from crimes. People have fear of the rules also. So because of the fear, people abstain from doing wrong things. It linked with the first one. Then shame is even more important than that. Shame comes from our own heart, not because of outsiders. If we get the thought of doing something which is bad for others or bad for the society, harmful for others, we should develop a kind of shame within ourselves. For example, we can say stealing or cheating people. Because of fear, if a person does not steal, when he or she sees no reason to have fear, can steal and escape. That's what happened in many cases. People think nobody will discover they are stealing. Nobody will know they are cheating, so they do. So when they know nobody is discovering they are stealing, fear disappears, they can do it. But if a person has shame, that is what when we are able to see in developed societies, for example, in Singapore, I am not going to praise Singapore people, but generally, in Singapore, people have so much shame, shame of taking what is not given. Sometimes something given also they don't take. I can give you a good example. These days Sundays we don't have the cook. Then we order food and buy. When we ask people to eat, they say, no, don't buy. We can go out and eat. They feel a bit shy because library is paying. Actually, library is not paying. Library is paying your money. You donate, you come, you support the library. So library buys food using your own charitable act. Therefore, there is no need to have shame about that. But to do wrong things, we must have shame. So, stealing, telling lies, misguiding people, creating disharmony among people, carry tales, all these things can bring harmful results to others, harmful results to the society. So we must develop a kind of shame to do that. So well-developed societies, people have that. I can see it in Singapore also. Not many people want to violate this good principle because they have shame. More than the fear, they have shame. Oh, I should not do. It can bring a very bad feeling to me. Society may think bad of me. They don't do. But undeveloped countries, this shame has disappeared. I am very sorry to say. So the Buddha was born in India, but generally when we think of the society is not well developed. So this shame factor doesn't work quite well. In Singapore it works well, but in India it doesn't work well. Even in Sri Lanka, it doesn't work so well. Many people don't have shame to do wrong things. They do wrong things, just keep quiet. They haven't developed shame to do evil, shame to do wrong things. But what happens when people come to that level, that kind of wrong path? Especially whole country, in the end whole country can collapse. Whole country has to suffer. This disappearance of moral shame not only start with poor people, not only with small people, it can grow up to the top of the society. That is where the danger comes. That's why I said moral shame is so important. If top level people of a country has moral shame, no need to have any rules about corruptions. They don't involve with corruption. They will be corruption free. But when people lose moral shame, it goes up to the top level, and top level people also can be corrupted. Then whole country will be ruined. The economy of the country will be collapsed. Moral of the country will collapse. So it brings very evil results to the whole country if the society is losing moral shame. So more than moral fear, moral shame is very important, because moral shame is personal. We ourselves have to develop. Then we don't have to think of the law. We don't do wrong things. We abstain from wrong things because of the shame. So these two qualities, moral fear and moral shame, are not established by Buddha, not established by rulers, but these qualities came to the society because of the need of the society. The Buddha agreed with these great qualities and encouraged encourage his followers to practice these two qualities, moral fear and moral shame, seeing the value of these qualities. So, all right, I would like to stop here. Yes? Yes. That is no, there is a practice. I think the doctors give certain kind of treatments to reduce the pain. That is a different thing. That pain, reduction of pain, has some side effects. That is a different thing. But if a patient asks the doctor to give something for him to die fast, there was a dead doctor also. He has created a machine and given to some friends who were suffering due to incurable diseases. That is not a good practice, because even if we have certain kind of problems, health problems, and have to go through pain, it is not a good reason to end the life because of that. Life is so precious, and just because of some pain or illnesses, should not think of that. And thinking of ending the life because of pain or due to illnesses is also not moral. There is a cruel thought of anger, create within oneself. So we need to tolerate it. Yes. Yes. Ask the question shorter. Okay.
even if you save him, he will not have any quality of life. So we as doctor, we advise the patient, the family that this one should stop. Another point of the advanced medical directive is that when this person encountered accident outside or what, or to pass away at home, when as medics we arrive on scene, we see that we advise the family that this person has not resuscitate. We are legally obliged not to save his life because it is the person's point of view that he won't survive. So it is as a Buddhist, I would say these are mostly they reach a state that there's no value in keeping in a very crude sense, keep the body warm. So the directive basically governs that it's only for terminal ill person that we do not save his life if he passes away.
I think I understand your question, although you did not complete. He had given some explanations. Also, if a person is suffering from an incurable disease, he used the word also, if there is no hope, that person can decide. Don't have to use artificial ways to make me survive or prolong my life. Just give me normal treatments and let me die naturally. That is perfectly all right. There is nothing wrong with that. That's why I think you wanted to mention nowadays there is a document to sign when somebody is met with an accident, no hope of surviving, don't have to use machines and prolong the life or due to any other serious health problems, leave the freedom to that person to die natural way. So it doesn't come under commit suicide. It is not like hunger strike. That is good. Have you signed that? Good. Good. Because medical expenses are extremely high nowadays. So if somebody become like living vegetable, no way of surviving, who are dying, everyday family people have to die. Day and night they die. When they think of expenses, mentally they die. So let go of life, yes. But best is everybody can sign this kind of document. I fully support that. So if to anybody it can happen, then can let go. It is difficult to say. It appears like the person is in coma. It can be the person is too weak. The body is too weak. Brain is very weak. So we do not know whether his mind is still working or not. It is difficult to decide. So when somebody is in good health, can make the decision.